Funny thing about life. Chapter 1 Guppy. A strange thing happened yesterday, which make me wonder about animals and their true relations with us humans. First of all, let me say this, my wife and I have no pets, and I do not consider myself a pet person, although I have ran the gambit of having kept a dog, a cat, rabbits, fishes, and a turtle, but all when I was under the age of 15. As I grew into adulthood, I realized I had no time for pets. Love is not enough. They deserve decent attention, and I have too active a lifestyle to be as appreciative and attentive as I should be. So why suffer the creatures? About 3 years ago, I had a green 1970 Datsun 510, which I just loved to no end. And then the engine died, and I parked the 510 in the driveway, with every good intention to someday fix it. I even purchased an engine from a friend at work. It became a case of good intentions, but not enough practical knowledge or confidence. So there the Datsun sat to the side in my driveway, with all the resolve in me to refurbish it, but lots of procrastination. A bit of reflection about my self-doubt when it comes to engine mechanics. I am somewhat befuddled by all these modern-day vehicles. One cannot even change a light bulb in today's modern car without a major degree in computer technology, doohickery, and gadgetry. To me, the Datsun 510 was a straightforward, no-frills piece of machinery, as simple as A, B, and C. At my father's insistence, I spent the better part of a summer learning body work and vehicle mechanics. Apprenticed to a neighborhood mechanic after school each day, weekends, and all through a summer school break. It was kind of an adventure for me, even though it took me a while to belly up to the idea. I just had to walk next door, and if my father needed me for anything, he just had to call out or step the few steps to the gate. We operated a small family hardware store, and our next-door neighbor, Mr. Gaia, operated a trucking business, hauling furniture in his panel trucks. One particular summer, the younger brother of Mr. Gaia, I pause here, food for thought, Mr. Gaia did not care much for his younger brother Gupta, I later discovered. It was a pity request from their mother, and why Mr. Gaia offered to help out his younger brother. Mr. Gaia was a trucker with many trucks and had a lot of yard space. So Mr. Gaia portioned out a corner of the front yard that his brother could use to start his garage and body shop business. Once began, he was struggling and asked my father one day when he came to our store to buy a sleeve of water sandpaper to do some body work on a car, if I could assist him on occasions, as I had often stopped by when passing to question him about work. My father readily agreed. It was a sort of win-win in my father's mind. I got to learn how to do body work and fix engines in my idle times, while was still close enough to be able to help him at a beck's call. Side note, my dad's belief is that no precious time should be wasted, and to this end, from my eyes was above my knees, he made it a point of duty to put me to work learning the practicality of things. He would often say, "Son, one never knows where life will take us, or what manner of things may befall you. Book knowledge is good, but the practice of physical labor, the learning of skills, we can turn to those learned skills in times of great need. You must never overlook such chances to learn along the way. It is paramount." He was now very empathetic with his words at the end. My daddy was not a learned man. Now where do you suppose he conjured that highfalutin word paramount? To this end, when he was putting up a new building in our yard, I was told in no uncertain terms to go help the handyman mix concrete, carry the mortar, and help the mason lay the concrete blocks. Help the electrician as well as the carpenter and the painter. He stressed at every turn to my annoyance, as I would rather be out in the yard playing with my friends and flying kites. Learn their trade and make them yours. That will take you through every walks of life, dependable, and filled with practical knowledge, son. It all sounded like hogwash to me at the time. If you ask me, he just wanted free labor, but now I realize the man was ahead of his time, or maybe just in my time. Of significance, though, I discovered that the construction crew, wood fire cooking, was the most delicious and filling. Pretty soon, though, I found out Gupta, Guppy for short, Mr. Gaia's younger brother, was more of a bodyman than a mechanic. He did have one other young fellow like myself assisting him. His name was Roy. He was a family friend and actually worked at a major auto dealership downtown Kingston, and from time to time, he would come to lend a hand. Guppy could not afford to pay him, so mostly they just tinkered around rebuilding stuff, drank rum, and bossed me around. The very first car I lent my assistance on was a red Triumph Spitfire. It was a complete wreck, But the owner of the car, Mr. Nesbeth, fancied that car a lot, said it was a chick magnet. In fact, he was showing off his driving skills and the power of the car to one of his prospective conquests when everything went pear-shaped and he lost control of the car, slamming the car into a stone wall. The reclamation project lasted for practically my whole summer break from school, and by all that is right, this car should have remained totally written of and scrapped. In between working on other cars, we had pretty much to reclaim the body first to make it all make sense. That thing was held together by wishful thinking, spit, bubble gum, and anything else we could toss on it and make it stick, while simultaneously rebuilding both the engine and gearbox. As it was with most everything Guppy attempted to do or teach me, it all seemed like a miracle when something was finally fixed and drove off. It opened my eyes forever as to why people are not allowed to watch their car being worked on by the mechanic up close. In particular, after putting the Spitfire together, we ended up with an old, 1-gallon paint can full of leftover parts, nuts, washers, seals, and bolts, and we simultaneously looked at each other, crossed our fingers, and prayed. The shop was always busy with minor work. Mr. Gaia's family and friends would toss Guppy's way to keep him afloat. Piece by piece, we put the Triumph Spitfire together. We missed 3 proclaimed, drop-dead deadlines in the process. The less said about it, the better. Bottom line, we got the car started, but it took us hours to get the car into gear. Guppy got so frustrated, eyeing the clock that Friday evening, the final drop-dead deadline, to complete the job or suffer consequences. Guppy was snapping at his own shadow, out of utter frustration. He then applied what my father would refer to as cosmic elbow grease. He jammed the car into gear with brute force and anger. 1, 2, and the third time was the charm. As Guppy put it after the deed was done, this will either kill it or cure it. And cure it, it did, and just in the nick of time. Mission accomplished. Minutes before the owner came to pick the car up, all 3 of us stood in the background like condemned men. When the owner arrived, our fingers crossed, our bated breaths held. The owner of the car took his keys and got in the car, which was washed and complimentary waxed. Yep, the whole 9 yards. He started the car, and as the engine roared to life, the owner let out an excited laugh and sped out the gate. We did not want to jinx the moment, so we waited until he was out of immediate sight and sound. Then, like little gleeful kids, we ran to the street to look after the car, to be sure it was out of sight, before we let our breaths out, and began to jump around like kids on a school football field after a goal was scored by the most unlikely player. Only then did Guppy remark, "Oh hell," he did not even say thanks, but on a brighter note, I got paid. Later that evening, as we all sat in the garage's makeshift office, on upturned, 5-gallon plastic pickle drums as seats, I was even given my first shot glass of white rum, mixed with Coca-Cola and lime juice. A reward, very hush-hush. I quit that very evening under much protest from my father, until I finally had to tell him what happened, verbatim. The strain of lending myself to so much deception was too much for this church mouse. Needless to say, Guppy's career as a mechanic and body man did not last very long. The last straw was when he forgot to return the oil's drain plug to the engine's crankcase on Mr. Gaia's girlfriend's car after he performed an oil change. The engine was wrecked on her drive home, and Mr. Gaia was so mad, he ran into his house and emerged with a .38 pistol in hand, and there was much shouting and gesticulating, while Guppy cowered for his life. Despite my father's warning, I was drawn to the dispute like a moth to a flame. And then out of nowhere, a shot rang out in the middle of everything. It was totally unexpected, as things were seeming to calm down. In a blink, Gupta took off running down the road, faster than a runaway horse. Apparently, Mr. Gaia's temper was legendary in the family. He could not be talked down or reasoned with when in such a state. Until that evening, I had never seen that side of Mr. Gaia. He always seemed like such a mild-mannered man. He was so mad I could literally see steam rising from his bald head top. Or was that scalp pomade cooking? I ducked down behind the prickle fence I was standing behind at the roadside and hastily went back to the hardware store, shaking in my shoes. All my dad said was, "Haha, I see you are still in one piece. Next time you will listen, heed my words or feel it." I just looked at him and thought, this man is a damn Obia man. He knows and sees everything, clear as day. I sure heeded his words after that.